this is Clara, and this is going to be my review on the Fundamentals of Caring movie. So off the first question, my general reaction was, as a whole, I didn't realize how much the movie would play into mental health. Like, I kind of just assumed it would mainly just focus on, like, the disabilities at hand in Trevor and not really comment a lot on any mental health problems he's having or a lot of the depression and kind of PTSD, almost like PTSD-esque things that are happening in Ben over his divorce and the death of his son. So I thought it was really interesting with all of that. So I really liked that. In general, I really liked the movie. I thought the part where Trevor's dad just, like, not really caring at all was really sad. And then the second prompt, which was, what stereotypes did you see in the film, and how does this relate to disability? Obviously, like we referenced in class too, at the beginning when they first introduced Trevor kind of comes in and pretends to be, like, babbling and incoherent, and that bases off the stereotype that everyone kind of thinks anyone that's wheelchair bound is some kind of mental disability because they have a physical disability, where in most cases mental and physical disabilities are not related to one another. And also when they meet Dot also asks them if he has any mental or brain disability, any mental issues with his brain, because of the fact that he has a physical disability. So it plays a lot into those stereotypes of what people say. Another one I noticed is how when they were, I guess granted Trevor is still only 18, and when I wrote down this comment I was, like, making comments as I was going, is that when they were interviewing Ben to be Trevor's caretaker, it was just the mom interviewing him, and it wasn't, like, she wasn't really taking much input from her son. It was kind of more, the interview was kind of more so set up to be about her opinion on Ben and not really Trevor's, and it was kind of more so after Trevor forced himself into the conversation that it was like, oh, okay, Trevor's, what's your opinion on Ben? But I think it playing the stereotype of kind of, like, helplessness, like, oh, Trevor can't really have an opinion on who his caregiver is, or he's inadequate at making an opinion on who his caregiver should be, and that his mom should do everything for him. And then also, again, in that scene, too, where when Trevor's pretending to be having significant issues mentally, Ben thinks that maybe his aftershave is upsetting him, and they think that, like, again, like, almost treating people with disabilities as, like, this kind of baby or almost a creature-esque thing that, like, can't, like, oh, smells will upset them, which is, like, silly. And then the third prompt just describes some oppression and privilege shown. There's a lot of able-bodied privilege, and one part of that is the part when they wanted to go see Rufus the giant cow, and they told them that the cow was only on the second story and that they couldn't really move it, and then they didn't have wheelchair access. So, like, that's an example of able-bodied privilege, of just, like, they don't even think about the fact that not everyone can go up a flight of stairs, and they easily just could have, like, had the cow on the first floor, and then the whole process of, like, then trying to figure out how to get Trevor up the stairs and back down the stairs, where in general, like, a big thing with able-bodied privilege is, like, the amount of effort Trevor or someone in Trevor's situation has to have to go literally anywhere. And, like, when they were pre-planning a road trip, how they had to plan out every single hospital along the way, and, like, every single little detail along the way that a lot of other people don't. So, like, when I have road tripped with my friends before, I think the farthest I've gone is, like, Tennessee, but, like, when I've road tripped with my friends, the only really concerns we've had have been, like, tell our parents physically where we are, get some snacks, pre-plan out who's buying gas, and that's kind of it, where it's, like, we don't really have to think about all these, like, logistical medical things for us, other than, like, oh, if anyone does have, like, medication, it's, like, one kind, it's, like, oh, don't forget your pills, like, it's not, like, a big deal for us to travel, where it's, like, that's a lot of able-bodied privilege, where I can travel very easily, or I can go very easily, and not have to worry about all these little things and all this little energy and steps to just be able to get out the door and get into the road. And then what else did I have? Oh yeah, and then I did notice, though, that a lot of the places did have accessibility, like the gas stations had ramps and stuff, which was nice, and so that was good. And then this was, like, commentary I had. This may have probably fit better with the first part, with describe reactions to the film, but I'd had it under, like, oppression, because oppression made me think about it, I guess, for some reason. I don't know really why, but there was not a lot of people of color in the film, and it was a very white film. I think it was all the main characters were white. I guess it depends on what you count Selena Gomez as. Is like, she's an American actress and she doesn't necessarily identify as Hispanic, but I know she has Hispanic roots, so you can like kind of count her as Hispanic, but she is like very light-skinned and doesn't really define by it, and defines herself as an American and just as like someone more so with like Hispanic heritage. But I noticed I kind of kept track. The entire film basically had literally no people of color, except the one scene when they were at the pit. They had one couple of color as like a background extras, and then one of the ambulance workers for when she had her baby. Oh gosh, what was her name? The fourth person that joins them on their trip has her baby. One of the ambulance workers was also of color, but in general I noticed that, where I thought that was interesting that this movie tries so hard to be like, oh, look at us, like, we're commenting on disability and we're commenting on minorities and like kind of all this stuff, and the entire cast was basically white, with the exception of like kind of Selena Gomez, and then like 3 extras total, and the entire movie was the only ones, like, I was like looking for it and I couldn't find a single other extra other than those 3. So that was interesting. And then don't know what it is, just interesting comment. And then the 4th question, how does it eliminate stereotypes? I think that they show Trevor is much more of a human with a personality and not just like a sack of existence. I think we tend to see people with disabilities as just this kind of almost like sack of person that doesn't really exist and kind of doesn't have much of a personality, and that they're kind of just there and like kind of just existing, where like he has a personality, and like he makes a comment like, I'm a prick with or without a wheelchair, like it's just who his personality is. And then they also, him having just like romantic plights and such with Dot that aren't necessarily like with other disabled people, or just like almost like a pity thing, like it is just like a normal romantic kind of plight of like a young teen kind of movie. So I think like I liked that, like the normalcy of it, and not the like, big deal, like, oh, it's a boy in a wheelchair and he's talking to a girl, oh wow, crazy. So I liked that a lot. And then I think it fairly accurately, for the last prompt, depicts disability, and I think other people would benefit from viewing this film, because I think that it shows, again, like it has a lot of positive stereotypes, or breaking stereotypes of like kind of more the normalcy, and it's a lot of these like newer films that show kind of like the normalcy of people with disabilities, and it's the more realistic portrayal of what having a disability is like, and how you're still just a normal person living about your day, just you have these added difficulties because of societal constructs. And so I think a lot of people would benefit, because I think a lot of people also, again, just like don't realize how much of a difference little things can make. And yeah, so I think just the use of language and everything like that, like I think it's a beneficial movie for people to watch, and I would definitely recommend it to my friends. I am sorry that this is double the length of time you wanted. Oh no, I'm sorry. Have a lovely winter break.